Hello and welcome to the Healers podcast. I'm so excited to be here today, Dawn Davis. Thank you for our new subscribers. And I've had so many cool people reach out to me and give me feedback about the latest healers that we've had on. And I've even had people asking me how they can book sessions with them. So I just love that the healers are getting that support and that you listeners are loving learning about all these new modalities. And so thank you for being here and subscribing and liking the videos and sharing them with your friends. And today I'm super happy I'm always happy, it seems like, when I have these beautiful friends of mine on, these wonderful healers. And today I have Ashley Garcia. And Ashley is someone that I've known for years now. And years ago, I had the pleasure of coaching her, and she was just starting off as an intuitive healer. And we just did all sorts of cool stuff together. And I just have loved watching on the sidelines her journey. And so, Ashley, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're up to in the world.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. When you asked me, I was like, it's an absolute yes. Yeah, we started working together like 8 years ago, which is just so amazing. Yeah, it's so amazing. And then I took your first course about 7 years ago, so that was pretty epic. So now I do quantum healing. I lead people into the quantum field, which is basically multidimensional healing. And we heal all kinds of different wounds, traumas, soul work, right? And then there's a lot of energy healing, but also physical healing that can happen very rapidly in the quantum field. And then I bring people back and we see what else is left to change around. So yeah, I have a couple different programs that I do this with.
Oh, that sounds so fun. So I know some of our listeners are probably like, what the heck is the quantum field? You and I know, but I would love for you to kind of give an understanding of when you say I'm working in the quantum field, what that means.
Good question. When we talk about the quantum field and it being a different dimension, the first thing I usually address is that we are not just sitting in one body. We are a multidimensional being and we are actually sitting in multiple bodies in this exact moment. And so when we're working on these different bodies, we need to be in different states of mind and also brain waves in order to connect into different dimensions. And so one of those systems is like the chakra system. We have the physical body, we have the auric field, right? There's multiple arenas. And so when we actually go into a deep state of meditation, we can actually be led out of the body and back to being more of an energy body and consciousness, which is where we can then go to the quantum field. And the quantum field acts a little differently than here. Time and space are not really, they don't work the same way. I don't want to say they don't exist because that's not quite accurate either, but it definitely operates in a different way. So in the quantum field, we can access past versions of ourselves, current shadow work, right? Future versions included. And there's even beings and different, different deceased loved ones, things like that, that we can actually meet in that sort of in between. But a
Ooh,
lot of it has to happen through the mind first.
yeah. Oh, I love that. And I think one of the things that I always say when I'm leading like somebody into meditation is it's almost like a drop of water going back into the ocean. I almost imagine when we're just our energy, when we let go of our, meat suit or whatever you want to call it, that it's like all of a sudden we're just this ball of energy returning into this huge field of energy.
Yeah, we go back to being more, to me, what we really are, right? And I know you know that. So, this life being a very temporary experience, considering we're infinite beings. And so, even 100 years is a very small number. And so, when we go back, so first thing I do in meditation, right, is I lead them actually very much into the senses and into the body. People are so much living in the mind. We have to first get out of the mind into the vessel, into the body. Then we can start to go away from the body. It's a whole journey, you
I
know.
love it.
But it's so fun. And my particular gifts, I get to link with that person. So
Ooh,
wherever
tell me
I
about
go,
that.
yeah. So I have a process that I still do a process that I think you originally taught me actually, the four pillars. Yeah. So I still do that. which I absolutely love, and cleanse and clear my own energy, become a more clear channel, more clear vessel where I'm in neutrality. I'm personally not tied to any of my own stuff going on. Right. So the clear vessel can hold the space. Right. And so technically what I've also been told in meditation is that I'm a portal. I'm a portal for the quantum field. And so I basically link with someone else's energy, and I do all my work over Zoom, because once again, distance is not a real thing for the quantum. It's just not. And so I have a kind of a psychic energy process that I put a rope around the both of us until it feels as though we are sitting right across from one another.
Oh, that's so cool.
And then I just let them piggyback and I take them with me. So even somebody who's never meditated before can meditate with me.
Oh, that is so neat. So I keep hearing you say meditation. So it sounds like meditation is a big gateway for you working with your clients, but maybe also for you in your own process. Is that true or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, all of this opened up from sitting in deep states of meditation.
Mhm.
Yeah, all of it. So, yeah, so meditation really is like a portal, not just for me, right? And other people, I train them now how to do this stuff even without me. Because while I might be a little further ahead on the hike, right, on the journey, other people are on the same trail. They just haven't done this part of the hike. And so that's where I kind of see myself as I'm just guiding them along places that I've already been and things I've already done, but not necessarily that I'm more potentially gifted or special, right? It's like I'm just leading them to their own version of this. And
Of
so
their gifts and
yeah,
open.
yes, and yeah, exactly. Their connection. All of us are born with an innate connection to the divine, but
Yeah.
we have to sort through all the earthly, wonderful programmed stuff that we chose here to then reconnect to our divine essence and what we really are. But as you know, the amnesia is on purpose. We
Mhm.
chose that too. Nothing. So I think the thing I hear myself saying the most lately is nothing's going wrong. Like I have to
Well,
constantly tell
is
people, I'm like, nothing's off track, nothing's going wrong. So
well, we are so conditioned through whatever our wounding is to think that we've done something wrong or we're the bad girl, bad boy, or that because our life isn't working out the way that we want. In typical manifestation, they teach you do these three steps and then boom, voila, everything comes together and the people, you and I and people that are really walking this healing path journey know it's
it
not
doesn't.
as simple as that. It's a little bit more complex, right? And a lot of the times when I always see it in my mind visually as like you're putting a stake in the ground and you're claiming and saying, I desire and want this. And as soon as you say that, then a series of events starts to unfold, right? And yeah, some of them bringing you closer to it, and some of it, it's like two steps forward, three steps back. And all of a sudden, when you're in the few steps back, you're like, this is never coming together. This isn't working. And then
Actually working.
it's actually working. And they think,
Actually working.
yep,
Yeah.
I'm not on path. So do you see that a lot with people?
Uh-huh. Yeah, there is no other way. We can't build on top of something that's already there. We have to create space. And so universe, source, God, whatever someone's particular higher power is, right? Whatever you want to call it, will create a pathway to that thing that you're asking for. But what do you have to become to get there?
Exactly.
Right? Or typically what I say is unbecome because it's more of a filtration process. So when people talk about growth so much too, I'm like, growth is amazing, but the way that I've actually experienced growth is going through a series of filters, becoming more and more of who and what I actually am and always was. So I don't see growth as an add-on. I actually see that the stuff that we are not gets taken away
It's
over and
like
over and over.
I love that analogy. This like a filtration center. If water is going through, it's getting rid of all the chlorine and junk and fluoride or whatever is in the water and making it purified and coming back to its original source, right? And that's what
Yeah,
I love that. I love that.
yeah.
When you started meditating and coming back to the truth of who you are, what have been some of the biggest realizations? Like what did it open up for you when you first started meditating?
Ooh. Well, one, it took a little while to get to the place that like I could see past the sort of third eye tunnel, I'll call it.
Okay.
So it took a little while of actually what I started, the journey I started was actually yoga, right? Because yoga, the asana, the movement part of yoga, was passed down to us to prepare the body for meditation. So I started there and then very quickly got like a realization that like meditation went along with it, right? And so I would do the asana and then I would sit and meditate. And so that process took a little while. I want to say it was like months, honestly, till
Yeah.
I could finally get to a point of quieting my mind. Um, because at that point, I couldn't even sleep. My mind had so much chatter.
Really?
Like I, for years, slept with a notebook next to my nightstand, like on my nightstand, because I couldn't quiet my thoughts
Wow.
at all. They went rampant. Um, yeah, it was kind of intense. And so, of course, at those moments, we think there's something wrong with us, right? So that's another journey that you have to kind of fight through. And it was like, well, start doing something different. Try something new. Whatever you already are doing isn't working. That's all you need to know to start to try something new, right? And so meditation was the next step. I did not start with silence. I don't recommend it. People are just gonna create a total aversion to it.
Yeah,
So I think guided at the beginning was what I did. I found some really good guided ones. I still use Insight Timer. I love it.
I do too.
Um, I'm about to launch some on YouTube as well. Actually, I just went to
Awesome.
LA and recorded some, so I'll have some
Oh,
of my
that's
yeah.
cool.
My friends making the frequencies that I want with it and all that stuff. So pretty excited about that. So yeah, but on Insight Timer though, there's plenty of really great guided meditations. And so I started with that. Then I did music, right? And then eventually, like way eventually in, like I started to do silence. Um, Even right now, I still love music though, honestly.
I do too.
So yeah, it's up to us what works for us, I think. So yeah, that's where it started for me was like the desire to quiet my mind and
Mhm.
start to get control over it. And I didn't know any other thing that was going to give me that. So it was once again taking something away was the solution, not adding, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, and then I started to get to a place where I would see this purple tunnel, this purple
Yeah,
light that
talk
would like,
about that. You said the third eye tunnel. I've never heard you say that or heard it
oh,
called. And then you got your fun purple hair. So
oh
there's
yeah, it's violet is the crown chakra, which is like my jam. I have my little emblem of it too. So channeling through the divine is usually the crown, right? And so it's sort of my thing. And I actually saw this in a meditation, which is 2 days later I got it. So there's that.
oh, that's really, I
So
love it. I love
I
you do
went, show me.
acting.
I was like, show me my future self. I want a signature look of some kind. And I was like, show me my future self. And then boom, this is what I saw. And it was exactly like this. And I just went, I scheduled my appointment the next day and went the following next day and had it. So I was like,
I
boom.
just,
And it felt instantly like it was like me, you know?
oh, I just have to tell our listeners because one of the things I specialize in is future self work, right? And so a lot of times we'll get these like clues or glimpses of our future self, but I have to give you props for like bringing it into embodiment in the now moment because that's always the trick, right? And the fact
Yeah.
that you were like, I see her and I'm gonna like
I'm
activate
her.
some of her and go do that. So if you guys ever see visions of your future self and it's even if it's just like a color you see or something, go get a crystal or go put that color, wear that color or do something to activate. I always see, I'm gonna get a little woo here. I'm curious if you see it like this too, Ashley. I see color as packets of information. So when I channel, and I go into somebody's energy field, I'll see like a turquoise. And to me, it's like a almost like a file folder. And I'm going in there, I'm like, okay, what does this contain? So I think when people get color from the future or they see something that like you saw purple, you saw your hair purple, I think that's literally like you're bringing in some information and then you're sealing it in. I know that's a little weird sounding, but do you understand? Like, does that,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, it totally resonates. Yeah, everything to me, so I'm very spiritual, but I'm also very science, like in a
yeah.
sense. And so I've studied metaphysics for like 10 years and I just love nerding out on this stuff. To me, we live in a vibrational universe and everything is kind of like a code. That's the way I see it. And so what you're talking about included is the colors are certain codes, there's certain information that is like waiting for us. And the big thing that I tell people too, which you already, pointed out, is like when you get a download of information, no matter what that download is, when we ignore it, we're literally ignoring the thing we just asked for, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
it's like, meditation is, so prayer is sending an email out to the universe. I want this. I'm looking for that. I need help in this arena. Meditation is listening. It's checking the inbox. So I tell a lot of my clients, I'm like, if you are praying a lot and asking the universe for things and asking for that manifestation, I'm like, how much are you checking the inbox? And
Ooh,
most of them are like, ooh, shoot, right? And I'm like, yeah, if you're not checking the inbox and you're not in a receptive mode, stop asking because it's not going to come to you. Or they've already been trying to like ring the doorbell and you're just ignoring it, right? So I think the best thing we can do when we get a download is one, is it something that feels really aligned to us, even
Mhm.
if it's scary, because if it's new, it's not supposed to feel comfortable. People will be like, well, that makes me uncomfortable. I'm like, good, that's good, right?
Yeah.
If it's new, it's not supposed to feel comfortable. And then secondly, though, does it feel aligned? If it feels aligned, then I'm like, then the next thing they have to do is just take the first actionable step, just the first one. That creates momentum. But
Yeah.
if they don't do anything, it ends up feeling like another suitcase in their back seat that they didn't do anything with, and then they feel lower again.
Oh yeah. It's building that intuitive muscle and
Trust.
in a
Mhm.
conversation with the universe source versus just it's a dialogue versus a monologue because the monologue is like, help me God, take care of me, give me a sign. And yet on the other end of it, when the dialogue comes through the other part of the conversation, the person's like not paying attention, right? And so, or they're maybe getting the hit, like you're saying, but then they're not taking any action on it. And I really feel that some of my biggest intuitive downloads have left me in a quandary because I'm like, wait, what? I remember after leaving my former relationship, hearing this intuitive download. It said, your next person that you're gonna be with is not gonna be here in San Diego. And I was like, I remember just hearing it and I just like kind of put it away and I was thought to myself, that's really interesting. That's really interesting because I would never leave San Diego and now I'm living in Boise, but the rest is history, right? But I remember when I did have a chance to connect with him, I remembered that voice in my head that had already kind of
I
shaped
just got
me.
the chills.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so this is the moment where I get to take action and say yes to something that seems completely ludicrous and how would I ever make that work or not. And so it's these little moments where you think they're just kind of happenstance, right? But your intuition is always trying to lead you, I believe, to your best and most soul aligned life.
I call them breadcrumbs. Our higher self leaves us breadcrumbs to get to the place that it knows we need to go. And if you didn't have that breadcrumb, would you have made that same choice? Would you have leaned in the way that you did with a little more faith, right? And it's like most likely if we're just choosing from past experiences and knowledge, which is there's a difference of knowledge and wisdom, as you know, right? And so when we're just going from what we've previously already experienced, no, we probably wouldn't make that choice. But when we're going from our higher selves, we're not talking about going from knowledge anymore. We're not talking about going from something we've learned already. We're going with intuition and a higher guidance system where we are literally in the unknown,
Yeah.
and if we don't have those breadcrumbs, we will start to lose trust. Like it's just normal. Like it's so normal to be like, but this little pocket over here, I know what that's like. I know I didn't like it that much, but I'm gonna go back to that pocket because at least I feel a little bit safer. And it's like I think the breadcrumbs are so necessary when our higher selves is starting to take the wheel and go, I want something more than what I already know.
Yeah. Have you ever had those
You
moments, Ashley, where you couldn't hear the breadcrumbs?
Oh yeah. When I'm in a really low frequency, if like grief is hard,
Yes.
when you're really deep in grief and your heart feels like it just went through a meat grinder and you almost don't know how to sleep or stay awake, that moment can be really challenging to find that inner voice, find that higher self. Um, it's so funny. The last time I went through grief, the way that I got back to hearing that voice, seeing those breadcrumbs, it sounds crazy, but I made myself continue going to yoga just even twice a week. I didn't make eye contact with one human being. I didn't want anyone to speak to me. I had a totally closed aura, just to be very clear. I didn't want to see any of these people, but I didn't know of another way to get myself out of bed. And I just didn't know what to do next. And so I started with something outside of my house that I knew how to do. And I started with yin classes, no crazy movement. I would sit on the floor in yin and I would cry. And then I would go back to my house and I would make myself meditate.
Mm.
The last thing you want to do when you're in it, in whatever it is find stillness and quiet. And it's actually a lot of times the medicine.
I think it's always the medicine. I think you nailed it. I think
It's
grief
painful, but it
is
is
so
medicine.
painful, and grief has probably been my biggest teacher yet because I hadn't met grief until last year. And when you're brought to your knees for whatever reason, uh,
Mhm.
you don't have all your normal defenses. You don't have all the coping mechanisms that maybe would work sometimes when you were kind of floating and going through life don't feel the same oftentimes when we're in grief. But you said something so powerful is to kind of like meet yourself there and still show up in any way that you can. That and for you it was like some physical movement, but very soft. Yin yoga is a very soft, kind of like more like stretching and holding
Yeah,
like,
you stay on the ground the whole time. It's
yeah,
like five poses in an hour, right? It's not much. It's
yeah.
different.
But sometimes that's
So
what the body needs is some stillness and some softness. And then for you to go into the mystery and unknown. I mean, that to me is like the
yeah,
medicine you can give anyone. And to understand that there are times, the listeners need to know this, there are times where because you're processing so much and you're in, like you said, that low frequency or that heaviness or whatever it's perceived as, that we can't always hear, but it's not that it's gone, it'll come back online. It's just like letting yourself move all that big emotion and energy so that you can become empty again and then start to receive.
1000%. That's exactly the experience. Because like we're never left alone, even when we feel alone. And so when we're in those moments where we think life is against us, or like we must have gone way off track to be experiencing this level of pain, and like my whole life fell apart. And once again, we're actually on track to become the next version of ourselves. It just doesn't feel like we're supported, but we are. So even in the tiniest of pockets, if we could find that stillness and meditation to reconnect to what we really are as like a being and a soul, we can carve out even just the miniest moments where we raise our frequency a little. And then, yes, we're back in it. And then we do it again the next day. And yes, we're back in it. And so another one that I did a lot was slow walks,
Mhm.
right? Slow walks with headphones and just be, but also, once again, be out of the house. So definitely important. And it moved me through grief a lot. Not that fastness is a thing, but like we don't want to stay in that energy and feel that way forever.
Oh, no.
So yeah. So to me, it was like, I need to start moving this or it's going to settle in longer than I like. And it's
Yeah.
a choice. It's just at some point, it's a choice. I know how good I can feel, and I want to feel that way again. What's the first step that I can do to get me there?
Yeah.
You just choose to do it, and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful advice for our listeners. Asha, I'm so curious. What made you want to become a healer?
Oh no, I'm like, that's a good one. I'm like, that's a good
Like,
one.
how did you come into it? Like, how did it choose you? I'm sure it chose
Well,
you.
I mean, starting kind of back to like the day I touched down on the planet, I was actually, I'm like, this is a long story. I was born sick. So I was born with like a stomach thing where it was just a birth defect, but nobody knew what was wrong with me until I was 11 years old. So like I just dealt with a slew of health problems in and out of the hospital for the first 11 years. not being able to hold food and water down, etc. And so that created a whole other, well, I'm good, but I'm good with it totally. It's everything has led me to where I am, right? And so, so yeah, I had my first stomach surgery at 12, and then, had to have another one at 18. So all the ailments and the things that came from not being nourished had other things, right? And so I ended up actually being a medical assistant for chronic pain patients from like 20 years old to like 25. So I was already kind of like, I spent my whole life healing myself and kept undoing those different ailments and things in a very like, medical doctors. I worked at a naturopath office. I had like supplements, a chiropractor. I had done myofascial massage. Like I've done so many modalities. It's like unreal. I did prolotherapy. I had injections along my whole spine from from the occipital of my head all the way down to my tailbone. I've done more physical modalities than I can tell you. And that was that. And then cutting out some food allergies. I experienced my first day of being healthy at 26 years old.
Oh, wow. I just got goosebumps. That's a long time to
If
go.
it's your norm,
You don't
it's,
know the difference. What was the difference for you that day when you were 26 and you felt that?
I woke up and I cried. Like I woke up and I like started to move my body and I went, I'm not in pain. And I went, am I sure? And I went like, and I started to move around in my bed and I was with a partner at the time and I looked at him and I went, I don't think I have any pain left. And I wasn't sick and I had nothing else going on. And I just bawled like a baby. I said, is this how other people feel? Is this what they felt their whole lives? I had no idea. It was a
That's
very
big.
huge moment. But that was through also cutting out the food allergies. So skip to me at 31, I learned about, I'd already been doing energy work with you. I had started learning the chakra system. I started to, what I do with other people now too, is like take them through the chakras and the wounds and the stuff that's there, right? So we had done that together. I learned about Dr. Joe Dispenza, who talks about healing yourself in meditation, right? I read like half of his book and just went, I'm going to start playing with this. So I'm very much like a half a book person. But I learned a little
Not
bit. I
what
was
you
like,
needed.
yeah, that's literally how I take it. I'm like, I skip through books. I don't know. It is what it is. Teach me quickly. And so, yeah, I learned that this man had healed his bones, his broken bones, and his spine in meditation. And I went, huh, my food allergies are invisible. They're not even a broken bone, right? And so that clicked for me. And I went, I'm just going to start meditating on it. So I spent 4 weeks meditating on turning off my food allergies, and they turned off in 1 month, and I haven't had them in 6 years.
That is so cool. Whoa. And just like
So then I was
all of
just
a sudden,
normal. I just
so
no pain, I'm healthy. I don't have food allergies. So at 30, so I actually am kind of my friends and my family, they're like, you're like Benjamin Button. I was born sick, was supposed to be unhealthy and sick my whole life. At 31, healed myself in meditation. I had no ailments. I take no medications. I can do handstands. I can do whatever I want. Like I've had shoulder surgery. None of it affects me anymore. I have gotten healthier with age. I'm about to turn 38 and I am the healthiest I've ever been. So that's the other
I
thing I
love this.
do not believe that you are supposed to get unhealthy with age. It depends on how you treat yourself, it depends on how you live, and it depends on the unhealed wounds inside that cause this stuff, cause the illness, right? So I don't abide by that at all, that we have to get unhealthy with age, right? It depends on what we do.
What a gift you are to the people that get to work with you because a lot of people in this day and age maybe get trainings and we all, as a healer, you want to take trainings and learn and all that kind of stuff, but there is nothing like experiential life experience of healing yourself, of saying, I'm not going to buy into this narrative. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work on myself from my consciousness and I'm going to see what happens. And you're able to cure yourself of food allergies. And, I forgot that story about you, but when you started telling it, it's like, yeah, you are.
Nobody remembers that I was ever sick because they
No,
don't.
because you're so vibrant. You're so vibrant and you're so healthy and you're doing, teaching yoga and doing all these things. And that is amazing that you are going to be the transmission of what's possible when it comes to healing because you've done it for yourself. Yeah.
It's the proof that I think people need to see, right? And so that's another thing so recently, I'll share one client's experience because I don't always sign people up that have like a physical ailment. A lot of times I'm doing a lot of the other like soul work, right? And like, yeah, they have ascension symptoms, they're awakening, right? I teach and do a lot of that work. But I had someone recently who I worked with for 3 months, and she had a very specific physical ailment. Hope it's okay if I share, but it's called vaginismus. I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar with it. So the body like will lock and literally you can't even get a tampon in,
Wow.
right? So there's no muscle control, no nothing. So it's like literally locked and that's it. So they can't enjoy sex, they can't have a partner typically because they can't have sex. It's a whole thing, right? And then there's a whole psychological component too that obviously makes us think that there's something wrong with us, which is not true at all, right? But it does. And so there was a moment where when I was talking to her, I was like, look, I've been able to, including like I broke my foot one time and I healed it in meditation and was running on it 3 weeks later, right? Like this is what I'm saying. The quantum field is very different to work with than here. Whatever this surface level kind of is, it's not surface, but this level
Material, yeah, the material plane.
is so minute in comparison to what we can actually access. So
Mhm.
that's what I want people to understand is that they have access to this too, right? And so I worked with her. We did the deeper soul work, which started to unlock some of this ailment that she had, right? A lot of past trauma, things that were compound trauma. And she also kept going to physical therapy. So there's another piece of this, right? We were doing our woo-woo work.
Synergistic. Yeah.
Yeah. But she was also had signed up for a PT program and was continuing to do that as well at the same time, right? And so as she was going through that process, when she was at 3 months, she was down to 20% left.
Whoa.
We went from 100 to 20 in 3 months. And she, at the beginning, did not believe this was something she was ever going to get rid of.
Hmm.
Right?
That's big stuff.
Sometimes we need someone too, like us, holding space for us, going like, I see where you're going. Like my belief is stronger than your belief.
Your
And
faith, like she can borrow faith from you because you've already been there. Hmm.
literally, yeah. So once again, we have a piggyback system when we're working with somebody, when we're playing in their energy. But really, it's like we implement that hope and faith by being the proof that we are. But then we hold our belief as the strongest one and we take them with us,
Yes.
right? And so with that, she was an epic student. She did all the work, she did all the things. So at the end of her 3 months, I was like, we can continue, we can add on a month if you really want to, but I want to see how you feel. And she's like, I have no doubt in my mind I can get rid of this last 20% by myself.
Wow. You empowered her, Ashley.
The way she said it, I literally was like, it just brought me to tears. I was like, oh my gosh. Very powerful. And she's just an incredible human. And I can't wait to see her with a partner. And now she's not afraid to date. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with her. And you know what I mean? It's just like, oh my gosh, the work is so incredible of what it can actually do. And so I also like to always remind people, because we talk about the work a lot, right? The process and the things we have to do. We also need to remember why we're doing it.
Yes. It's
What
important.
does healing and happiness look like? And what does it feel like on the other side of that bridge?
Hmm.
We forget that part. We're not healing to constantly heal forever. It's not our new
Heck
job.
no, no, it's not it should not be a job. It should be like at different points
No,
in our lives. We might need to go do it for various reasons, but it's yeah, not supposed to be an everyday
our
thing.
new identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
That
replace one identity with a new identity sometimes. And, that one is not supposed to be it. The new identity is supposed to be the healed, happy version of ourselves that, like, in the future, the visioning and futuring, I think, is also really important to any of these processes because people will easily lose track that there is another end.
yeah.
This isn't a forever thing. This isn't a forever problem, you know?
Yeah, and that goes so deep because I think when people are in that I need to heal identity, it comes from deep, deep scarcity of something's wrong with me. And what you're saying, what I say is no, nothing's wrong. This is just a symptom that your body is trying to alert you to so that you can shift and heal and enjoy your life. Like this woman that you just described, she could say, oh my gosh, she gets to enjoy her life and have actually a whole entire new identity in life because of it. And that's the reason why people do this. And they have to, like you said, remember why they signed up in the first place. And that a lot of it's just staying, it's integrating it all. It's just staying in the integration afterwards and just saying, okay, now I get to have fun and pleasure and
And
enjoy.
that's what it's so perfect because even right now, I have a doctor, a woman who just signed up. She does all kinds of functional medicine and things, but she also is very intuitive, right? And even that, it's like I'm always reminding her that there's a difference between knowing something and embodying it. I could tell someone all day long how to meditate and what to do, and then if I check in with them in a week from now and they're like, "Yeah, I totally understood it." Did they do it? No. Right? It's like there's a different experience that happens, a different shift with doing the actual work and feeling it and embodying it and checking out of the knowing. You know, it's like I think that's a huge part of I see a lot of people intaking information, doing rituals, doing little things, but they're not actually embodying it.
I think that's the biggest separation between having the life that you want and the life that you are currently living is that you can take all the knowledge from books and even stuff like this, but until you're ready to like, the what's that, the rubber meets the road type thing,
Yeah. It's
implement
not going anywhere. Yeah. It's just like, yeah.
it's not going to change. I even know for myself, I was always saying to myself, "Oh, I'll do that meditation practice. I'll get to that meditation practice." And I always thought because my work was so spiritual and I was up, in channeled higher states sometimes with clients that I was kind of meditating. No, it wasn't until I sat my butt down. It was like, get your practice on, done. And really, I every morning at 7 a.m. from 7 to 30, that's my time. And I call it like a date with my higher self. And I have to do the things that help me to embody and be who I really want to be in this life. It doesn't come without just like your body physically, if you're working out at the gym, all
Mhm.
of a sudden you stop, you're going to lose the muscle mass and your shape after a certain point of time. So we do have to have the practices that support us and continuing to be in our consciousness and connected, but we don't always have to be doing the heavy lifting because there's times for it and there's other times for integration.
1000%. I mean, that's the first thing I actually do. That's the first week that I work with somebody is setting up their daily practice. You know, we have to have an agreement that they're going to do it. Also, on a science level, meditating even 5 minutes a day carves out new neural pathways in the brain, right? So if you hike a trail, even so, and people like to do like, oh, I do 20 minutes 3 times a week. I'm like, nix that. Stop doing it. It's not gonna it's not gonna help like this. 5 minutes a day walks you on a trail that has a bunch of brush and debris on it, right? And you walk up and you walk back. And if you do that every day, the brain will carve it out for you, right? It's neuroplasticity. It will reprogram, it'll carve something new. So I actually tell people who immediately tell me, oh, I want to start meditating. I'm like, don't torture yourself into doing 20 or 30 minutes a couple times a week. 5 minutes a day is all it takes.
Yeah.
Then we extend it. Then we eventually go from guided meditations to music, right? And people can choose if they want to do silence. Not everyone has, unless you want to channel, you don't necessarily have to do silence, but it is nice and challenging sometimes. So yeah, so it's more of like, like you said, it's like putting the work in is really like it can be more simple. My busiest clients, I'm like, will you put 10 minutes of this in if it gives you X, Y, and Z? And they're like, I can get up 10 minutes earlier. I can get up 15 minutes earlier, right? And they do. And then they end up falling in love with the practice because it's not like torture.
Wonderful. That's
And
wonderful.
then a couple weeks in, they're like having these amazing moments, amazing breakthroughs. So when I take them to the quantum field and lead them there, when they have done a daily practice, we go further and faster because their neural pathways are supporting the work that I'm doing too.
Mm,
It's a
that's
combo.
wonderful that you require that. And I'm sure our listeners love it too. I love how direct and clear you are as a healer. Like you're very like, this is what I need you to do. And in order to support the work, I'm asking that you show up too, not just me. And I think that's a
Mhm.
big piece of healing is the participant, the person who's going to be getting worked on or worked with, I should say, has to be willing to show up too and do these little practices and things that you're suggesting that would really help them quantum leap. I mean, you're a quantum coach, so you're
Yeah.
like, hey,
Yeah.
um, I have this question, and it may be it may be something you can't verbalize or quantify, but when you went into the quantum field and you got rid of the allergies, is there any tips that you can, because I'm sure people are listening and they're just like, wait,
Yeah.
what? And of course they have to probably work with you. You can tell them how they
Yeah.
can work with you. I mean, of course, but is there any tips just to open people's mind or imagination of something that they could do that would support that type of,
Try it.
yeah.
Yeah. Totally down to share that. I know some people will work with me, but I know I want other people to be able to access anything they can so they can try it, right? So, this isn't something I pre-planned, right? Like I went into a deep state of meditation and I waited to be shown something. I
Mhm.
was in such a receptive mode. I was not asking for them to specifically do something, my guides to do something. I was like, this is what I want to do. And then I would just sit in a deep meditation. So very much surrender, receptivity. I ended up going into a space where, because I visually channel everything, so I see everything very clearly. And I went into this room and this like white room and I look over at the left and there's this wall and there's this massive light switch. This is like some Alice in Wonderland type of I'm not even kidding. I'm like, okay, like this is just something that you could not have made up yourself or planned, literally. Massive light switch. And I went, that's my food allergies. I just knew it. And it had the light switch on. I just knew that that's what it was, right? So this is just the totem that my guides energetically tied to my food allergies,
Okay.
right? It's not really about the visual as much as it is what it's doing.
Mhm.
So, but that's what I saw. And so I went over to it. I mean, this light switch was so big, I had to put like my arms around it. You know what I mean? Like literally to click it off.
Okay.
This is the funniest thing. And so I went over and I remember putting my hands around it and I clicked it down, right? And then I would meditate again the next day. And I would sometimes be let into that room, but not every time
Okay.
because I was still very much in receptivity. Like I don't, um, even to this day, I don't have the belief that I know everything,
Mhm.
right? I don't always know the exact medicine that I need, and therefore I allow the unknown to show it to me.
Mhm. That's potent. Yes.
Doesn't matter how powerful we think we are, or how much we channel, right? Like, show me. I don't know. And so I love the I don't know. And so yeah, so I would go into that room here and there, and then I would go and if it was on, I would click it off again. And I was on, I would click it off again. And I had it happen multiple times, right? Like several times over these 4 weeks until I realized one day I was going into that room and it was off. The thing was no longer up, it was down. And I was like, huh. And then I started recognizing I was like, I kind of had pizza the other because one of my allergies was gluten. I like had pizza, I had these other things, and I was like, I'm not aching, I'm not hurting. I had noticed very subtly that I had been adding these foods in because I was moving at the time. So I was like had a lot going on. And I was like already adding some of these little things into my diet and I wasn't having any reactions. I just didn't notice it. And at this point, this is my test. I was, guinea pig number one. I didn't know this was going to work. So I
You're
wasn't
just
expecting
following.
anything.
Yeah, you're following the energy.
And
Whoa.
who taken a year, right? Like I didn't know. I didn't know any of this stuff yet. And so yeah, so I played around with it. I trusted myself, I trusted my guides, and then in literally 4 weeks I was fine. Until I had some more severe allergies to like shrimp and things like that. If I ate it, I would feel like I swallowed a handful of razor blades, like really bad reaction. Yeah, it just was intense. And so that took me like I had to get a little more gumption, but then I tried the shrimp again and I had no reaction and haven't since. I eat it like every week almost. There's none of it's real, none of it's
Mind
there.
blowing.
It's programming.
Yeah, it's programming. And I think that it's, oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, isn't it Dr. Bruce Lipton I think it was him that said, if you, if your body gets programmed that it has to be gluten free, you can unprogram it, you can shift it, and you're proof of that. And for our listeners,
Yeah.
I think, one of the things I hear you saying around your process was you go into it with curiosity. you're allowing yourself to be shown. You're going into it as a student or, how like just open-minded and you are following the prompts and you're in a deep state of trust. And I hear also in my head that like amusement. Like I find it to be like a big light switch. How amusing, right? It's kind of fun. It's like, oh, look at this,
It's like work. No, it's a massive Alice in Wonderland light switch.
Yes, it was like almost like part of this was kind of fun and you just followed the energy and without expectation, it shifted without you
So
even
fast.
realizing it. And so much quicker than you ever could. So I think for our listeners to hear that and to understand that maybe some of the things that you're dealing with, you can try some of these things for yourself, going into this
Mhm.
and just be that curious soul that is like, hey, let me be shown what this is.
Yeah.
If
Everything
people,
comes through play.
yeah, it does come through play.
So,
It-
yeah, especially when we're incredibly serious, the best things we can do is find laughter and play.
yeah,
Because those are two things we don't do when we are scared. When we are in survival mode, which is a lower frequency, necessary for humans, but a lower frequency. And so, what are the things that we wouldn't do if we were scared? We don't sit still. We don't like silence, right? We don't play and we don't laugh.
yeah,
So you want to switch your frequency real fast, find one of those
yeah.
four things, and you
Things
will
to live by.
automatically start to get out of fight or flight.
Oh, yes, I love all of that. Those are big, big things in my life. And Ashley, I could talk to you for hours because we get in those modes where we're like, hey, let's keep talking. But for our listeners, I know they're probably so curious about how they can work with you. So what's your website and what is something that you're offering right now that could support our listeners?
Yeah, I would love that. So, airandash.co is my website. And so I have a couple different programs depending on where people are at. So I have a 3-month program that is doing the deeper soul work, right? Having somebody walk through it with them, having somebody sort through it, and coming to that other side of the bridge. And then I have a 6-month program too for doing the soul work as well as somebody who wants to open up to their own abilities and gifts and already has some of that happening. And then I teach them even at the end of that 6 months how to start monetizing it if it's something that they want to offer as a service. So my 6-month and my 3-month, that's what I have right now. My next thing is my group program, right, which is going to be epic because there's going to be a community and everything else. So I have a few different things. So what I offer right now is a discovery call, right? It's like you get a free 20-minute quantum reading with me. And that basically shows both of us if whether or not we're a match. But either way, they get a little free reading with me. So yeah.
That is fun. And I'm sure people are going to want to take you up on that offer because I think that would be joyful to get to spend time with you. And I just want to thank our listeners for going along on this journey and getting to learn more about all things quantum. Thank you so much, Ashley, for being with us today.
Thank you so much.